Just make sure they got a good voltage. It would really stink, especially being so far from home.
What are these orange cones for? Fish goo part. I think I'm gonna need your help, Thomas.
Our mission is to save these incredible abandoned lighthouses using new technology while preserving the history and helping the environment of the Chesapeake Bay. We are the Lighthouse Centers. Today, we're at Hooper Island Lighthouse, meeting with the Coast Guard to service the light, as well as hanging up a jib boom on the deck to help hoist up heavy objects.
You may be asking yourself, why am I out on a lighthouse holding an orange cone? And that's because today we're going to have really our first real visitors coming to the lighthouse, and that is the Coast Guard. And you might remember from one of our first videos when we came out here, we said, what are these orange cones for? Is someone going to park a car around here? There's not a car for miles and miles. But the reason we found out later on is that there are a bunch of tripping hazards around the outside of the lighthouse. So you have these metal covers that they would use like the davit or a crane to lift them off, to open them up, and then they would load the coal or whatever directly down into the cellar for storage. But they left these eye hooks on top, and when we first started coming out to the lighthouse, we were tripping on them constantly. They're very hard and heavy and sharp, and we're lucky that no one got hurt. So then we figured out on our own that the cone goes right here. You see that the angry osprey left part of a fish, some kind of fish goo part there, and we're just gonna put the cones out around on the tripping hazards. And the Coast Guard is coming from Crisfield, which is down south, maybe 20 miles that way. So they should be arriving pretty soon. We get some comments occasionally about how we lift things up from a boat up onto the lighthouse. And what we do most of the time is we just have a rope and a clip, and we just drop it over, hook it on the boat, and pull it up. And a lot of people have said, why don't you get like a jib crane or a davit arm with a pulley or a motorized thing, and then you can pull them up easier. And the truth is, it's really fast just to reach over and pull things up, unless we have something really heavy, which we do have something heavy coming. That's a kitchen cabinet and sink. We're gonna set up the arm. There actually is a davit arm, or like, I think it's called a jib boom, that is over here. So we have two ways to get up into the lighthouse. There is a ladder with a locking access panel here on this side, and then there's one on the opposite side of the lighthouse, which we just never use that one because we just use this one. But the reason that there is for that is, depending on which way the wind is going, you might want to dock on one side or the other, so it draws the boat away from the lighthouse and it's not being pushed into the lighthouse by the wind. So over at this one, which is the one we just happen to not use very often, there is the base for the jib crane, and here it is right here. So it's old, but it'll do the job. It's pretty heavy, and I'm just gonna pick it up, and I think I'm gonna need your help, Thomas. So there it is, nice and tall, and I think I'm gonna need your help, Thomas. So why don't you set up a time lapse? Drive people crazy. All right, so then let's put a couple clamps on it. always super nervous when I'm using a tool over the water. Thomas is launching the drone because we think we see the Coast Guard coming up a couple miles away, and we want to catch them arriving at the lighthouse with the drone. Oh, here they are. Yeah, that's definitely them. Coasties are here. Watch your head. Oh, there you go. First time I climbed up here, I hit my head on that. Okay, well, I hit my head here. And now I have to remember, we don't get a lot of visitors.
No worries. I remember my first time I hit my head too.
How many times have you been here?
This is my second trip here.
Awesome.
Oh, okay.
So my first one was about the summertime of 21, possibly 2022. Heads up.
Well, if you remember hitting your head, then it must not have been too hard.
Around the line, you gotta pick it back up behind it. Oh, there you go. That would.
Just one battery?
Just one battery.
Okay.
So this inspection calls for a recharge. So all we're gonna do is inspect the solar panels, inspect the light for any damage, and then swap out the battery with a fresh one.
Okay.
So typically we bench test these batteries. Whew, sorry, that battery was a little heavy. We bench test them about 12 to 24 hours before. Just make sure they got a good voltage. It would really stink, especially being so far from home. Coming all the way out here, only to put a fresh battery on and realize it was a dud.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How are y'all doing?
How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Good, good.
Got it.
Perfect.
Watch your head.
Are you Rich?
Yes.
I'm Blake.
Blake, nice to meet you. Are you coming up?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay. You're going to stay and go down with the ship? My name is Rich.
Alan.
Nice to- Alec?
Alan.
Alan. Okay. Rich.
Brian. Very nice to meet you.
Brian.
Matt.
Matt. Nice to meet you. This is Thomas.
How you doing?
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Brian. Very nice to meet
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming.
No worries. All right.
Let's not waste
Shall
any
we,
time.
Get the meat and potatoes done.
Yeah.
With, so you guys can ask
Exactly.
any questions you want.
I think you'd have an expression like the fish and chips or something instead of meat and potatoes.
You'd think I would change that up, but I was always taught meat and potatoes as a kid, so it just
You can
kinda
have
slips
that
out.
fish and chips line if you want.
I like it. I'm gonna keep it.
Just pay me $1 every time you use it. We're actually bringing out an industrial laser in the next few weeks, and we're going to start stripping paint because we need to do it in a really safe way that doesn't blow. Like we're sandblasters for a living, and that's why I took on this job. But I can't bring a sandblast unit out here without blowing dust all over into the bay. So we're going to do it with an industrial laser.
Have all of you been here before, or was it just you?
No, actually, believe it, it's just been me.
Okay.
Since I arrived, we've had pretty much a full crew turnover, so I'm one of the last holdouts.
Okay.
So it's probably you, your fault.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Main goal when we come in, overall, just take an overall look of everything, make sure it hasn't been disturbed. There's no massive corrosion. Wires are predominantly intact, solar panels intact. There's a diode on the back which helps the solar panels work. And as long as everything isn't too disturbed or too corroded, we'll typically leave it the way it is. We'll do a little bit of preventative maintenance just to extend the life of it. We did bring hardware just in case. This is a real far trip from us. This is about an hour and a half ride. So if anything was wrong, it'd be a real bad day just to come all the way out here and realize half your equipment's not with you and half of your gear is corroded. So these all look to be intact. I'm just gonna follow this. This goes up to the light, which means this guy goes all the way back. So far from here, they're good. I'm just gonna take a step outside, check out with them.
Running to the soap pan looks great. It looks a little frayed on the
So on a lot of our fixed and floating aids, you'll see a lot of these old school toadstools. They're just old battery boxes. Back in the day, what would have made it a little bit easier, solar panel with a light up here and the battery located right here, kept it all nice and compact. The crew who installed this probably was thinking it's easier to mount a solar panel. They don't have to do anything to the exterior frame, secure it nice and tight to here, and then run their solar panel line back into the battery where the battery is located now, continuing to protect it from the elements, and then support the light that's still inside the old light room or the lamp room. You said the wires are good?
Wires are all good.
Sweet. All right. We'll go ahead and just swap out that battery if you guys want to go ahead and start doing that.
Of course.
Brian, while you're doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and check the light out real fast.
Okay.
You cool with that?
Roger.
All right.
That works. Almost done here.
No worries.
If you wanted a more intense light to go a farther distance or something, you would have a stack of them? Oh, that's really
All
cool.
based on the needs of the area as well as the aid.
Okay.
So Tangier Sound Light was what we recently did. We converted it from old legacy gear to, we ended up going with a Carmana, but while we were in the process of figuring out what was the best light and the best power source to give it for that area, we had played around with the idea of originally using this with a couple of stacks to meet the candlelight requirement as well as the nautical range. And we ended up going with a Carmana, which is a self-contained, so no wires, no solar panels, no batteries. It's all in one unit.
Wow.
And that made the job a whole lot easier. Some applications, it's just easier to stick to a tried and true method of trying to get the nominal range, where others, not so much.
So where is the photo cell on it?
For this guy, it's right here.
Okay.
So we try our best just to cover it up real quick, just to see if I can get it to flash once or twice.
It's amazing how it doesn't look that bright up close, and then miles away you can see it.
During the daytime, it's very, very misleading. There we go. There we go.
Misleading. They for sure are
Even at night, it doesn't look that bright up close. I mean, you'd think like you'd get blind. Yeah, I mean, I've stood out here, in the dark, and you would think it would blind you or something, and it really doesn't look very bright from here. And then 5 miles away, you can see it's really weird. I think the range of this one is like 19 miles, I think I read.
I'm drawing a blank, unfortunately, on the range. Because what's funny is right before we came out, we looked at it, and you never want to say anything incorrect, so you're like, okay, what can I remember in a very short period of time so I don't get it wrong?
Exactly. Yeah, because YouTube will let you know if you even do this, misspeak the slightest word. 19 miles, I think I read.
Up until I enlisted, I never really took much stock in how delicate the ocean ecosystem is around the area, and then you realize it affects everything, not just the shoreline, but leaching into the shoreline.
The Susquehanna is one of the largest tributaries to the bay, and that's where we're from. So if people out there, you spill a quart of oil in the water, it's gonna end up down here, and it's not like people say, oh, what's the difference? Like people say, they see we're working on a toilet, a marine system, and they're like, oh, what difference does it make? Why don't you just throw the poop in the water? And they're like, how much can one person generate? And that's not the point. It's not about one person. It's about everyone doing making a little difference, either positively or negatively.
Because if you change your habits positively, and you, and all of a sudden, now it's 4 or 5 of us, just that small little percentage can mean a massive impact.
Exactly. That's
good or bad, as you said. Brian down below, as well as myself, we're machinery technicians, so our job is predominantly engineering based, and it's a large part of our education as we're taught all the different nautical ranges for, like you said, flushing sewage, or taking on water, or running certain engineering systems. So it's just it's a massive part of how that all plays into just making sure we try and maintain this lovely planet we have for as long as we can.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's a little warm in here. I don't want to make you guys suffer.
Let's talk downstairs.
Yeah, where it's not a 98 degrees in here and not feeling like a great sauna.
Could you tell me a little bit about the range of different duties that you have and things that you have to do and encounter?
Here at AIDS Navigation Team Crisfield, I'm the engineer petty officer, so my primary responsibilities is the small boat that we operate, as well as our building. Here we do a lot of cross training, so we're all boat crewmen, advocates of safety. A lot of us climb, so Tangier Sound is required at least one climber and then a rescue climber. The main mission of the unit is fixed and floating aids of the area. So I said, from Chop Tank all the way down to Pungateek, Virginia, on the western side of the Chesapeake.
Okay, so that answers one of my questions. You also service the fixed lighthouses on land.
It all depends on whether or not they're privately or like the Coast Guard has a need for it. So if there's a need of the community, need of like whether it's the fishing community or the pleasure craft community, it gets advocated for.
So have you ever gotten a call that a light was down?
All the time.
Really?
It happens more often than you think.
But it hasn't happened here like since we took it over.
Not this light, no. Yeah. But in this area, it does happen quite a bit.
Okay.
It's all based around the response of the aid. So typically the call comes in, and the first couple questions we ask are like, who's the verifying source, what time, and when. And then from there, we predict our response time. Some of these aids, because of the corrosion, hits them so fast, and take this lighthouse for example. It's privately owned, but it's got a Coast Guard lamp on top.
Right.
In the event that the owners can't properly take care of it, it becomes unsafe for us to try and service the light, and that becomes sadly a slippery slope of we can't service it, but yet it requires it for the safety of the mariner. How do you, which one takes the precedence? Because you don't want to send guys up a ladder well or up the side. Like some of these lighthouses you have to rappel.
Yeah.
Because you can't go through the center of it.
Yeah.
I think the cool part, and at least I've gotten this from being in the ATON field, is you're in the community a lot, so you get a lot of community feedback, community involvement. You get to hear a lot about just like, hey, that aid that I used to make my marker home. Sometimes they may not know all the terminology, but you just hear that thank you. And I think that's the cool part that puts a lot of wind in our sails just to keep doing this job. Because who doesn't want to play with lights and sound signals all day long? To me, this is the most fun job in the world. Thanks for having us.
Well, that was great. That was very educational. Super nice guys, very professional, and they're doing a great service for the Chesapeake Bay and the public that use it. So that was great. It was a great day for the Lighthouse Centers. So we set the arm in place, and you can see it's kind of leaning out because of the way the clamp is at the bottom, pushes it away. So I got a block of wood, and we're going to put that as a spacer in the upper clamp. And I just found this old chunk of wood in the basement from some rotting wood that we took down from the shelves. But you can see the old saw marks from the way that it was cut in the old mill, probably right around the turn of the century, right around 1900 to 1902 when the lighthouse was built. So it might have even been like a water mill saw, but really cool. I don't know if you guys can see that. Awesome. I love old stuff, and we're going to repurpose this as a spacer. I almost dropped the wrench. You know how you spin it around, you have to let go for a second to grab it on the other side. So I'm going to use two hands so I don't drop this down into the bay. All right, so we got a rope to test it. Look at this awesome old pulley. I love it. All right. I found this old, looks like a sash, like a window sash weight for an old window. Really cool, nice to have. People use them a lot around as weights, around boats. So let's see how it works.
Do you grease that at all?
No, we should. So, awesome. And now I'm going to pull it up. Love it. So now we can bring heavier stuff out and bring it up and down the lighthouse without breaking our backs. and bring it up and down the lighthouse without breaking our backs. I don't know if that was very good, what I said. What is this thing called? A boom, crane, lifting arm?
Calling it a giblet?
A jib crane. What? Don't let it fall over. It'll fall right over.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me see.
It's hanging. See?
Oh,
I mean,
I don't think so.
yeah.